Okay, let's jump right in. We're stepping off the deep end with this week's sources.
We really are. We're thrown immediately into this hidden world. It starts with this chaotic, frantic auction scene.
A frantic auction, a hex knife, a panicked slave trader,
Yeah.
and then the cold, deliberate power of an ancient vampire just stepping in to claim his, quote, property.
Yeah, it is an immediate immersion into a hierarchy that's built on, ancient power, a lot of paranoia, and this desperate lust for survival.
And the source material we're pulling from for this deep dive is just incredibly rich.
Mhm.
It details not just the mechanics of this brutal slave auction, but the politics behind it.
Oh, absolutely. The deep, complex political and emotional infrastructure of the vampire and demon worlds. This is a society that feels like it's teetering on the edge.
But old rules are being broken.
Out of necessity, out of madness, it's all starting to fray.
So our mission today is pretty straightforward. We need to navigate this brutal landscape and really understand the gravity of the situation surrounding the Shalott, a woman named Shay.
We have to unpack her unique heritage, the profound irony of the curse she carries.
And most critically, I think, we need to track the stunning transformation of her terrifying new owner, the clan chief Viper.
Yes, how he goes from predator to, well, to a devoted, fiercely protective mate.
It's an incredible arc. We're going to dissect the chain of command, tracing the escalating threats she faces.
Right, from these, low-level magical assassins all the way up to the supreme authority of the vampire world, the Anaso.
And the analysis is going to focus on some critical themes. The cost of misplaced protection, the political implications of a universally recognized healer.
And how internal corruption can shatter even the most established, powerful supernatural systems. So yeah, prepare for a deep dive into loyalty, betrayal, and the shocking power of destiny.
Okay, let's start by painting the scene. The atmosphere of this auction. It's designed from the ground up to be unsettling. It immediately tells you we are far outside the bounds of any kind of human morality or law.
That's right. The location itself is a commentary on the cynicism of this demon world. It's an illicit trade focused entirely on the consumption of sentient beings.
And the man running the show is Aver. He's described as a troll.
A greedy, remorseless son of a bitch. I
Yeah.
mean, the sources make it clear that his panic and his crude manners immediately make him seem like the most contemptible creature there.
Which is saying something, considering the room is full of demons and ancient vampires.
Exactly. He's the worst of them all, in a way.
And his security, his physical setup, it reflects his whole philosophy. It's all about raw, brute force over any kind of subtlety.
Yeah, the protection he uses is described in a lot of detail. Mountain trolls. Their skin is as thick as tree bark.
They're the ultimate in physical, impenetrable security. They're just these lumbering, dull, but functionally unkillable creatures, at least by conventional means.
And that allows Aver the confidence to conduct his very dangerous business.
It creates this sense of just heavy physical danger in the room. But that's immediately contrasted by the arrival of true cold power.
Viper.
Viper, he's the core buyer, and his presence just changes the entire dynamic of the room. He's presented as the absolute apex predator.
Centuries of power, yeah, but draped in this beautiful facade. The sources say he has silver hair and eyes as dark and beguiling as a velvet night sky.
But it's made very clear that the danger isn't in his looks. It's in the terrifying cold power surging through the air that surrounds him.
And he views Shay, the Shalott, purely as a commodity. The language he uses is so intensely possessive.
He calls her his demon, his property.
And this is where the complexity starts, right away. Because his attraction isn't just proprietary, it's instinctual, it's deep.
The source material really dwells on the specifics of his obsession. He's intensely drawn to the sweet scent of her blood.
The warmth of her skin and this almost tangible, shimmering energy that's just coming off of her.
He recognizes her unique nature instantly. And the language used is so evocative, her proximity is like stepping close to a smoldering fire.
Promising a heat that this ancient cold vampire had long forgotten.
So this initial lust, it's not just a plot device. It's the biological trigger that's going to eventually override his political and emotional conditioning as a clan chief.
Right, but just as this tense commercial transaction is about to happen, it's violently interrupted.
Which signals, that the commodity being traded here is far more important than just a simple purchase.
A demented human bursts in, though we later find out he's more than that. A powerful black wizard wielding a hexed knife.
And the significance of that knife cannot be overstated. In this particular supernatural society, magical artifacts Any use of unapproved, chaotic magic, it's strictly forbidden.
The punishment is immediate death.
Exactly, which tells you how desperate this individual is. He is willing to sacrifice his own life to complete his mission.
And that mission is the key to understanding Shay's vulnerability. The wizard doesn't just want to kill Ever. He establishes a mystical link between the slave trader and Shay's life.
He yells that he came for the Shalott, and then he specifically threatens Ever, saying as long as he holds the Shalott's curse, she will die as well.
Wow, so that moment just fundamentally shifts the entire plot. Ever, the greedy troll.
He's suddenly transformed from a master holding property into a vital piece of collateral.
Ever's safety becomes, paradoxically, intertwined with Shay's survival. It creates this perverse accidental layer of protection for the troll.
It confirms the curse isn't just a personal affliction on Shay. It is a mystical bond, and it's anchored to Ever's life force.
And the fight that follows is brutal. It reveals the specific dangers of this black magic. The wizard, he's operating with this magical crystal, unleashing blasts of black magic or magical fire.
I need to pause on that detail. This fire is noted as being deadly to both demons and humans.
So it's an indiscriminate weapon. It causes all these wealthy, powerful guests to panic and scramble for cover.
And while the room just devolves into chaos, and Ever's flapping his pudgy hands, worried only about his lost belongings,
Viper remains singularly focused.
he resists the wizard's attempts to influence him. The glamour. Because Viper is noted as being immune to mystical crap. He's a force of ancient physical vampire power. He's not easily fooled by illusion.
That immunity says so much about his age and his inherent strength. He's not just powerful, he's fundamentally resistant to the kind of chaotic, forbidden magic being used against him.
So the fight concludes with Viper securing his prize, but in a very messy, deeply intimate way.
He defeats the wizard by sinking his teeth into the man's neck. It's a lethal final move, but it's not without consequence.
Right. Crucially, Viper sustains an injury. The wizard manages to stab him repeatedly in the back with that forbidden hexed knife.
And this is the moment where we get a brief glimpse beneath that predator's facade. Viper, the eternal warrior, he concedes that the stabs, as the sources note,
Hurt like a bitch.
yeah, it emphasizes his vulnerability to specific magically charged weapons. It establishes that he's powerful, but definitely not invincible.
So, with the threat neutralized, Viper claims Shay. The transfer itself is highly symbolic. It involves two key objects.
An amulet and a heavy key.
The amulet is basically a magical failsafe.
Right. Ever, the troll, he explains that as long as Viper possesses this small amulet, the Shalott must come when you call her. It ensures her total compliance and prevents any escape.
It's a literal magic leash.
It is. And then there's the key for the shackles. Ever immediately urges Viper to use it. I would suggest you leave the shackles upon her until she is safely locked in a cell.
This is the conventional way of doing things, the historical approach to property management in this world.
But Viper rejects it completely, and this rejection is the first major pivot in their relationship dynamic.
He looks at Shay, dismisses the shackles, and says softly, but with absolute authority, "Oh, I do not fear controlling her."
He recognizes that physical restraint is unnecessary for him. He intends to control her through his sheer power, his presence, and maybe the promise of something different.
He establishes control based on his status, not on iron and silver. And that subtle act is the first crack in the whole master-slave paradigm.
Which takes us directly to Shay herself. She is the object of all this intense desire and deadly conflict, but 80 years of being the focus of greed has left her, well, cynical.
Exhausted and full of raw, understandable resentment.
Her internal life is defined by this duality and rejection. The core definition of the Shalott status is mongrel. She's half demon, half human.
She belongs to neither world, which is precisely why she's been subject to being bought, sold, and abused for decades. She feels utterly unworthy of belonging, of love.
Her bitterness is profound. She despises the very world that values her so highly. The source material notes that her raw pride is the only defense mechanism she has left.
And she uses it relentlessly to bait Viper, even though she knows she's completely and utterly at his mercy.
She's constantly railing against his outward appearance of cool, stately arrogance because she envies it.
She sees it as the strength of the predator, right? The quality she, as a mongrel slave, feels she can never attain.
And this self-image is what makes the truth of her lineage, this healing gift, such a profound and tragic irony.
Okay, so let's delve into that specific power that makes her the most sought-after creature in the supernatural world. This power comes directly from her father, who was a Lumos.
The Lumos were the designated healers of their tribe. This is a lineage of immense, almost mythological power.
And the blood of a Lumos, and by extension, Shay's blood, it possesses the ability to cure all but death.
Just think about the political and biological ramifications of that. In a world populated by ancient creatures who sustain endless injuries, diseases, long-term magical ailments, this blood is the ultimate universal panacea.
It's more than just a cure, though. It's power. Her blood is noted as being potent blood, intoxicating to vampires, specifically possessing magical power that rejuvenates them in a way regular human blood just can't.
And we get a window into the scale of demand when she was under Ever's control. The source notes that vampires were being nightly drained when she was his property. They were desperate to tap into her restorative abilities.
That explains why the stakes were so high at the auction, and why the attacks started immediately after. Her life is a ticking clock for everyone who needs her to survive or to achieve political dominance.
And the central tragedy here is that the one creature who holds the power to save countless lives, potentially including the lives of her enemies, is herself treated as disposable, a resource to be consumed and sold.
Shay's expectations of her new master were based on 80 years of really dark experience. She expected to be dragged to a dark, dank hole with iron bars.
The standard prison for a supernatural slave.
Exactly. Instead, she's escorted to Viper's gleaming black limo. This is a critical detail. It just screams modern opulence and power.
It contrasts so sharply with the ancient dark traditions of the slave trade.
And the limo itself is a piece of world building that shows Viper's unique blend of ancient power and modern luxury. Plush white seats, polished satinwood, a functional wine cabinet.
Even a plasma TV. This blatant display of wealth should imply absolute luxury, but for Shay, it's just disturbing. It just means her new owner has the money to be infinitely more refined in his cruelty.
And the crucial, life-altering shift happens when Viper attempts a kiss in the limo. Shay, reaching a breaking point, forces herself to push back, rasping out that single defining word, no.
In her mind, this is the ultimate test, and she expects the ultimate consequence. Based on 80 years of servitude, she is certain he will laugh, ignore her, or punish her severely.
As she notes internally, she had never met a man yet who didn't think that a no was just a yes waiting to happen.
But Viper's reaction is instantaneous and absolute. He immediately backs off, settles into a seat, and offers a distinction that just shatters her reality.
He asks, "You said no. I assume that meant no, did it not?"
And then he declares, "I'm a vampire, not a monster," and he cements that separation by affirming, "But not my horror, not ever."
This single action forces Shay to reconsider everything. It sets Viper apart from every monster she has ever encountered. It suggests a moral code of vampire, honor, that, while still driven by predatory instincts.
And he admits he wants her.
Oh yeah, but it's a code that is fundamentally governed by consent and by respect for her choice. He's still a predator, but a predator with a deeply complex code.
But despite the profound relief, Shay is a seasoned skeptic. She acknowledges the possibility that this is just a more sophisticated form of cruelty.
She notes that for a vampire, deception was perhaps their greatest skill. And this suspicion is vital to her character. She can't allow herself to trust easily, no matter how kind his actions might seem.
And the most tragic layer of Shay's identity is finally revealed through a letter she finds later, which explains the curse. This revelation requires us to really reflect on the profound psychological damage she's endured.
This is the centerpiece of the tragic irony surrounding her life. She discovers this letter, written by her father, the Lumos, who reveals that he put the curse on her himself.
This curse, which has been the root of her pain and suffering for decades, was intended as a protective act to hide her from unknown enemies.
His logic was simple in a way. Make her seem like damaged goods, cursed and difficult, and therefore less desirable to the high-level enemies who sought the Lumos' blood.
He left her with Ever, temporarily, with a plan for a powerful witch to break the curse once the immediate danger had passed.
As fate would have it, that witch was killed before she could fulfill the pledge.
The protection failed at the most critical moment, leaving Shay in perpetual 80-year servitude.
Imagine the emotional and psychological shock of reading that letter. Shay's entire life was defined by the belief that her father, the one person who should have protected her, sold her into slavery and cursed her.
She built her whole identity, her bitterness, her raw pride, her contempt for all men around this initial act of parental cruelty.
And to learn that all her suffering, the beatings, the chains, the sails, was rooted in a profound, loving, but tragically failed protective act. It's devastating.
It means her bitterness was misplaced for 80 years. It doesn't undo the suffering, but it changes the source of the wound from active betrayal to a cosmic, tragic irony.
This realization has to fundamentally reshape how she views her history and, the possibility of trust in the future.
So let's shift our focus to the man who now holds Shay's fate in his hands, Viper. He's defined not just by his wealth, but by his status as clan chief, which places him at the absolute top of this predatory hierarchy.
Viper's status is rooted in immense age and constant physical self-improvement. He is centuries old, and his power isn't static. It grows dynamically with each passing year.
This speaks to a continuous commitment to strength and survival, which is a key part of his warrior identity.
And he didn't inherit his position, which is a crucial distinction. He earned it as a warrior who survived and triumphed in the fearsome Battle of Durotriges.
And this was not just a skirmish. The Battle of Durotriges, we have to analyze that as the ultimate proving ground for this warrior race. It's an elite, almost gladiator-style competition.
Reserved only for the strongest, most feared, and most respected fighters among the vampire clans.
So surviving and conquering that battle doesn't just grant him power. It grants him the political legitimacy and respect needed to rule thousands of vampires and lesser demons.
And this history defines his reputation. He's known as a feared predator, yet he strives to maintain this outward reputation for honor and integrity. How do those two concepts, predator and integrity, even coexist?
Well, that's the intellectual friction we need to explore, right? His integrity is clearly informed by his past. The sources reveal he was once prey himself.
An unclanned outsider.
Yeah, forced to fight his way up until he became strong enough to battle back. That memory of vulnerability prevents him from engaging in the same mindless cruelty he once faced.
So his honor is pragmatic. It's the code that keeps his thousands of followers loyal and prevents him from becoming an easy target for rivals.
This leads directly into his intense paranoia and his security measures. This source material explicitly links his past status as prey to his current need for control, which is evidenced by the vast armory he maintains in his hidden lair.
Right, as an unconscious sense of security.
Let's talk about that armory in detail. It's a collector's trove that reveals the depth of his strategic mindset. It includes long swords, ninja weapons, modern handguns,
And cases of magically blessed weapons, all meticulously stored behind glass.
That juxtaposition is fascinating. Why does a centuries-old vampire capable of supernatural speed and strength need a modern handgun and ninja weaponry?
It signals a pragmatic approach to warfare. He is prepared for any enemy, ancient or modern, magical or mundane.
And the presence of magically blessed weapons suggests he anticipates threats specifically designed to defeat supernatural beings. Maybe human hunters or rival demons using holy magic.
The need for this massive armory isn't just about collecting. It's a physical manifestation of his fear of ever returning to his status as prey. He needs to know he can fight back against any foe, at any time.
And this extends to his estate defenses. It's not just ancient warding stones. He uses a comprehensive, high-tech security system.
We're talking motion sensors, silent alarms, a network of cameras, all monitored by his loyal clansmen, like Santiago.
Viper is essentially operating a high-security military compound disguised as an opulent home. He is the definition of a modern, technologically integrated predator.
But despite his ruthlessness, Viper displays these moments of surprising compassion, particularly when it comes to individuals connected to Shay, which reinforces his complex moral code.
The prime example is Levitt, the grumpy small gargoyle who is Shay's friend.
Right. Viper is entirely willing to interrupt his own high-stakes operations just to purchase Levitt from Ever, saving him from torture. This isn't a pragmatic political move.
No, it's a personal concession made for Shay's emotional comfort.
And when Levitt shows up later at the estate, Viper formalizes this protection. He offers him shelter and safety, not because Levitt is useful to Viper,
but simply because he is Shay's friend. This demonstrates a clear line in Viper's code. What is important to Shay is important to him.
which culminates in a much more significant political commitment, the clan chief's pledge. Viper gives Levitt his solemn word, a binding oath that carries immense weight in the supernatural world, that he will not harm Shay and will keep her safe.
This elevates his relationship with Shay instantly. He's moving beyond a master-slave dynamic and establishing a bond rooted in fidelity and commitment.
A clan chief's pledge is inviolable. It puts his honor on the line.
It serves as public confirmation, or at least clan confirmation, that he is now dedicated to her protection regardless of the cost.
But this deviation from the expected predatory behavior does not go unnoticed. Viper faces immediate pressure from within his own hierarchy.
Led by Dante, one of his closest clansmen, and Dante's mate, Abby.
Dante is highly influential, and his mate Abby is a formidable political and supernatural force in her own right. She is the Phoenix, the goddess of light.
And that is a critical factor. She retains her human compassion despite her immense power, which means she forces a moral conscience onto this ancient, violent vampire society.
Her power is so great, and her moral stance against slavery so clear that the source notes, no demon with sense wanted the Phoenix gunning for them.
That illustrates a fascinating geopolitical constraint. The goddess of light exerts an external moral pressure that even the clan chief has to heed.
This pressure becomes concrete when Abby demands to see Shay, to ensure she's not being mistreated. She insists the visit happen during daylight hours.
Which ensures Viper can't use his nocturnal advantages or interfere with her assessment. It proves that even the most powerful clan chief is accountable to the moral standards enforced by entities of divine power.
But the personal tension is amplified when Dante, his trusted clansman, confronts Viper directly about his changing demeanor.
Dante warns him bluntly that Viper is showing every symptom of a vampire who has discovered his true mate.
And this is referred to as a dangerous luxury for a clan chief. We need to analyze why.
Well, a clan chief has to be emotionally ruthless, politically detached, to maintain control over thousands of potentially rebellious predators.
So falling in love, developing a soul-deep bond, a true mate, it creates an instant vulnerability.
Exactly. It gives rivals leverage, it exposes him to unpredictable emotional reactions, and it risks blurring his strategic judgment.
And Viper vehemently denies this possibility. He struggles fiercely to maintain control and composure.
His inner turmoil is clear. He finds himself immediately impatient and anxious when Shay is absent, even for a short time. It demonstrates that his self-control is already fraying under the strain of this new, unwelcome emotional bond.
The irony is just profound. A centuries-old warrior, defined by his solitary strength and self-control, is being politically and emotionally derailed by the one person he purchased as property.
And this internal conflict is a major engine that's driving the subsequent escalation of the threat.
As this deep dive continues, we see that the early attacks were far more strategically sophisticated than they initially appeared. They weren't just attempts to kill Viper.
No, they were elaborate diversions.
The sources confirm the entire strategy was a ruse to flush us from Dante's mansion.
Right. Dante's compound was heavily protected, well warded against demons, which made it nearly impossible for the enemy to launch a frontal assault. They realized the only way to get to Shay was to exploit Viper's protective instincts.
They calculated correctly that if Shay was placed in perceived danger, Viper would abandon the safety of the warding and isolate himself from his clan's support.
Moving them into territory where they could be cornered, this speaks to a really high level of strategic planning on the part of the unseen enemy.
And this is where Shay demonstrates her own formidable intelligence. She quickly makes a crucial deduction based on the patterns of the early Hellhound attacks.
She realizes the attackers were designed to provoke flight, not confrontation, which confirms that whatever is out there is likely waiting for her and Viper once they separate or move into exposed territory.
Her tactical awareness is critical. She's not just the objective, she's an effective combat analyst.
And the hunt escalates with the arrival of a highly dangerous predator, the Loo demon. This creature is described in vivid, terrifying detail, really emphasizing its lethality.
It's physically daunting. A narrow, scaled head, razor teeth, and scales that glow with an unsettling energy.
And it was sent by a master whose identity is so powerful or infamous that its name is forbidden to speak.
That anonymity just instantly raises the stakes. This is not a random attack. This is a targeted capture by a hidden, supreme entity.
This encounter becomes a tactical deep dive, proving that Shay's value extends far beyond her blood. She utilizes knowledge she gleaned during her long servitude with various supernatural entities.
Specifically witches.
Right. She transitions from victim to warrior by applying her knowledge practically. She uses a nasty witch's brew potion contained in a ceramic pot.
And launches it directly at the demon's thick armor. The potion is perfectly engineered to weaken the Loo's dense protective hide.
And that's a critical detail. Without Shay's intervention, Viper's brute strength would have been insufficient. Her potion softens the armor, allowing Viper to force his sword deeper into the demon's skull and deliver the killing blow.
It highlights their effectiveness as a tactical unit, where Shay's intellect and specialized knowledge are just as valuable as Viper's physical power.
The dying Lou demon confirms its mission was to capture Shay for her blood, but it taunts them, suggesting they aren't asking the right questions.
And it confirms that Ever is still alive. The connection to the curse remains, which confirms the enemy is manipulating the mechanics of her bondage.
And then the intensity just skyrockets with the arrival of Styx. This signals the involvement of the highest echelon of the vampire world.
This is not just a skirmish anymore. This is a political confrontation.
Styx is introduced with a reputation that precedes him. He's named for leaving a river of dead in his wake.
A legendary warrior, previously the chief of the largest vampire clan. The source notes his distinct physical difference from other pale vampires. He has bronzed skin.
Which suggests extensive time in different environments or maybe a unique heritage. And he has this intensely severe, implacable demeanor.
He arrives accompanied by 6 non-clan vampires, revealing their status as the Ravens.
These are not common warriors. The Ravens are the specialized, elite personal guard of the supreme leader. Their presence confirms Viper has walked straight into a meticulously planned trap.
Styx is forced to admit to Viper that he is violating established clan laws to conduct this operation. He explains his need outweighs any other consideration.
This just shows the profound desperation of their unseen master. The highest laws of their society are being thrown aside for this capture.
Viper and Shay realize they are completely surrounded, and Viper immediately reverts to ruthless military survival mode.
He forces Shay to escape through a small, toxic drainage pipe, prioritizing her survival over her immediate safety or comfort.
And he ensures the ruse is absolute. He demands she leave her shirt behind, saturating the immediate area with her potent scent.
So Styx and the Ravens would logically believe she was still nearby, allowing her precious time to escape through that noxious tunnel without immediate pursuit. It's a cold, calculated decision.
Her comfort is sacrificed entirely for her ultimate survival.
And this confrontation forces Styx to drop the ultimate revelation, clarifying the identity of the person who commands such resources and requires such desperate action.
Styx reveals that the supreme leader of all vampires, the Anaso, is the one hunting Shay.
The Anaso needs her blood because, as Styx states plainly, it is life. This establishes that the conflict is not about political dominance between clans, but about the survival of the entire hierarchy's figurehead.
And Styx is in a position of intense conflict. He's a raven, personally dedicated to the Anaso, and he believes deeply in the Anaso's stated mission to achieve peace among all vampires.
However, Styx is acutely aware of his master's current instability. He reveals the horrifying truth. The Aso has been poisoning himself with tainted blood.
And is not entirely stable in his thinking.
Styx reluctantly concedes that his leader is going mad and is likely beyond salvation.
This transforms the target of the hunt from a legitimate leader seeking a cure to a deranged, desperate supreme authority who is a threat to the stability of the entire supernatural world.
The political implication of this instability is enormous. If the Anaso, the apex figure, is compromised by madness and tainted blood, the entire framework of vampire governance is at risk of collapse. It would plunge their world into chaos.
And Styx's realization that his loyalty must shift from a failing leader to the preservation of the system itself. That's the core of the final conflict.
So the narrative just accelerates toward the climax, where all these layers of corruption, love, and desperation converge. And it begins with Shay's definitive act of trust and courage.
Shay, guided by her loyal friend Levitt, tracks Viper through the catacombs and finds him in a horrifying state. A dramatic reversal of their roles.
He is brutally tortured, whipped, sliced open, and strung up by silver chains. Silver, of course, being kryptonite to a vampire. The pain is crippling and his life is rapidly draining away.
And this moment is the ultimate test of Viper's changing character, of Shay's ability to trust. Despite 80 years of ingrained hatred and fear of the predatory nature of vampires, she recognizes she has to act instantly to save him.
She doesn't hesitate. She presses her wrist against Viper's lips, forcing him to drink her blood.
The Lumos blood, the universal cure. She affirms her action by invoking her heritage. Blood to heal you. Do you think a Shalott ever reneges on a deal?
She fulfills her father's mandate, the purpose of her blood, in the most intimate and trusting way imaginable.
And the result is immediate and shocking, proving the intensity of their connection. The blood donation causes a powerful, undeniable surge of physical pleasure in Shay, a physical climax.
This is a visceral confirmation that the link between them transcends mere lust or clinical healing. It is a profound, shared biological destiny that is overriding her personal trauma.
Viper is completely healed, instantaneously. He rises to his feet ready for battle, but with his devotion solidified by this act. His next step is clear.
He has to confront the source of the tyranny.
The final confrontation takes place in the Anaso's lair. It's described as having this lavish Arabian Nights decor.
An unsettling contrast between the leader's refined taste and his internal madness.
Yeah. The Anaso is weak and physically ravaged, yet his power is still formidable. He can wield these crippling, distant pain attacks against his enemies.
But the Anaso is merely the desperate figurehead. The true strategic mind behind the chaos arrives. Damocles, the imp.
This small, seemingly minor figure is revealed to be the true puppet master of the entire hunt.
And Damocles is motivated by a deep historical grievance, pure revenge. He had served a truly great vampire master, whom the Anaso betrayed decades ago to seize control of the hierarchy.
Damocles admits he engineered the Anaso's current weakness and manipulated him into hunting Shay's blood, claiming he executed the plan so very well.
This is the critical piece of information. The entire crisis, Shay's danger, the destabilization of the vampire world, it's all the result of an old score being settled.
Damocles used the Anaso's lust for power and Shay's unique curse as the perfect, elaborate revenge trap.
And the most brilliant and cruel part of the plan involves Ever, the troll. Damocles confirms that he kept Aber, the man who holds Shay's curse, alive precisely because Ever's death will kill Shay,
thereby denying the Anaso his only chance at survival and healing.
Damocles created a flawless self-canceling mechanism. He made the Anaso depend on a cure that was intrinsically linked to a kill switch, ensuring that the Anaso would die either from his current malady or by Damocles' hand once the cure was within reach.
So with all the machinations revealed, Viper makes his position absolutely clear. He publicly challenges the supreme authority.
He accuses the Anaso of poisoning himself and, by extension, poisoning the entire clan structure with his madness and corruption.
And he publicly declares his refusal to surrender the woman he loves, stating, "I will not surrender the woman I love."
This is a public declaration that the master-slave relationship is over. He accepts her as his true mate, which is a profound political risk for a clan chief.
The ultimate decision, however, rests with Styx, the loyal raven. When the Anaso commands his personal guard to seize Shay, Styx performs the traditional bow, acknowledging the Anaso's status.
But then he delivers the ultimate act of principled defiance.
Styx declares, "The woman is to be Viper's mate. It is against our law to harm her."
And this is the crucial analytical distinction. Styx isn't abandoning his principles, he is redirecting his loyalty from a corrupt, mad individual to the codified law of the clan.
That distinction is what provides the political and moral cover for Viper's subsequent action.
With the hierarchy briefly fractured, Viper capitalizes on the moment. He uses his sword to swiftly decapitate the Anaso, ending the tyranny and the hunt in one definitive, brutal act.
The political crisis is resolved by eliminating the corrupt head of state.
And Shay, who was still under immediate threat from Damocles, is saved by her gargoyle friend.
Levitt, having used a wish granted by a water sprite, transforms into a huge, powerful gargoyle, 3 times his original size. He appears and just easily neutralizes the imp, ensuring Shay's survival.
And what about Ever, the architect of Shay's misery and the literal holder of her curse?
He's captured, but alive. Viper knows he cannot kill him because the curse remains tethered to Ever's life.
Viper immediately offers reassurance and commitment, stating that Ever will go with us, and pledges to use his vast connections to find a witch powerful enough to break the curse.
But he makes the final transformation explicit. When the curse is broken, she will no longer be his slave.
And then he adds the definitive statement. Maybe not my slave, but you'll soon be my mate, which means you're stuck with me for an eternity.
Wow. This deep dive took us through an intense journey of power, trauma, and ultimate transformation. Let's briefly recap the critical analytical takeaways from this extraordinary set of sources.
Well, first, the profound power of the Shalott's blood was the catalyst for everything. As a universal panacea, it made her an irresistible, politically volatile asset.
And that directly led to her capture by a desperate and decaying supreme leader, the Anaso.
Right. And we also analyzed the profound psychological impact of Shay's life. 80 years of suffering rooted in a protective curse placed by her own father.
This misplaced suffering became her greatest vulnerability, which the vengeful imp Damocles brilliantly exploited by using the curse holder, Ever, as a ticking clock mechanism.
And we witnessed the remarkable evolution of Viper. He moved from a cold, calculating slave owner who saw her as property to a devoted mate driven by an inherent ethical code.
A code that rejected outright monstrosity and upheld consent. And it was ultimately that integrity that allowed him to successfully challenge the corrupt apex of his own hierarchy.
Critically, the sources show us that the greatest danger wasn't random. It was targeted historical score settling. Damocles' revenge for an old master's betrayal was the engine that destroyed the Anasa's rule and catalyzed the final violent confrontation.
Old resentments, as we see, have the power to destroy entire empires.
So Shay is safe, she's healed, and she is loved. But the immediate future is dictated by the past. She remains cursed as long as ever leaves, necessitating the continued active search for a powerful witch.
The immediate question of freedom has been replaced by the eternal question of acceptance. Can Shay truly overcome 80 years of trauma and accept the centuries-old vampire, Viper, as her mate for eternity? And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to carry forward. The vampire clan system was established violently to protect its members from external threats, from human hunters, rival species, and the world outside. Yet, as we've seen, the most devastating threats faced by both Shay and Viper torture, madness, organized assault, and betrayal came exclusively from corruption and the lust for power within their own demon and vampire hierarchies. What does it mean for a warrior race to build a complex system seeking civilization? And why is it that in these established, powerful structures, the pursuit of control so often leads to the deepest betrayals and the most savage violence?